Hi, welcome to this new episode of ITQonversations. My name is Jeffrey Kusters. I'm the field CTO at ITQ, and this is a Technologist Panel discussion to talk about security and containers. I have with me Barry van Kampen and Hans Donner. Guys, could you please introduce yourself, what your role is and what your area of expertise is?
Barry van Kampen, Technologist Security, and working on all kind of levels on the security side to be sure that our customers are safe. And within ITQ already almost for half a year, but previously I have been there before.
Cool, good to have you back, Barry.
Good to be there.
Hans Donner, Technologist container platform. I've been mostly involved in Kubernetes also prior to working at ITQ. I'm nearly a year now here. Yeah, Kubernetes. What can I say?
So for me, this is a really exciting topic because I see a lot of the customers that I talk to making the transition to container platforms, but they're also focusing heavily on security, of course. I think containers and security bring a lot of opportunities, but also new threats. Buddy, to start with you, can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, you say it correctly. It has its pros and its cons, in my opinion. For example, it's really easy to keep your containers up to date if it's updated. But you still have to have an organization who's taking care of that. On the other side, you also see it's very pro that your developers are easy. They have the possibility on an easy way to gain resources and possibilities like that. On the other side, you also have to teach those who are always working on functionality to work also on this functionality. So it is a little bit, it's actually a lot of change within the IT landscape, in my opinion. And it also brings, in my opinion, a lot of change how you have to handle with your people over there.
Yeah, absolutely. In the past, it was very contained. Where was production, where was development, and have security procedures running around. Nowadays, with continuous deployment, continuous delivery, stuff is coming directly to the production environment. That is a completely different ball game. People have to be really aware of what's happening, where they are pulling their sources from. Just doing something from the internet, hey, there's a nice image, let's pull it and let's build our software on top of that. Do you know what's running inside? I have no clue. It's also just like exposing it on the internet. Filters, firewalls. Yeah, that's a completely different ball game, and they are never were involved in that kind of discussions.
I can say that it also has its pro on that side, because where developers usually didn't have certain security resources, they're now available too.
Absolutely.
And I always make a little bit the joke question, do you know why there is a brake on your car?
I don't know, to make sure that I don't crash.
Well, a lot of people see a brake as a limitation of that. And in my opinion, there is a brake on your car to drive faster.
Yep.
So if you bring that to the container discussion, if we are arranging that brakes are available for our developers, for example, they're able to drive faster, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And what you see nowadays is that the brake is going to be installed while the car is already driving. Well, that's obviously too late. So as soon as you start building that car, build in the brakes.
Yeah, so this is all around, the transformation of, traditional software deployment into what we now call DevSecOps or SecDevOps, whatever order you prefer. Yeah. So this is very much like security being an enabler for your developers to move to production faster without having security doing, gated checks on what you're trying to deploy, but make it part of the process, right? So Hans, can you elaborate a bit on that?
Well, it's the same with customer experience. Nowadays, all it's about agile development, getting the product as fast as possible to the end user, so get their feedback. The same applies to security as well. Involve them from the start, learn from them, and also see possibilities instead of where they are hindering your process. Nowadays, everybody is involved with private data, PII. You have to be careful about that. And if you make a big mistake later on, it's very,
impact can be huge. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at, if we're talking containers, we're talking Kubernetes, right? That's kind of
that's the most, yeah.
Exactly. So what I find interesting is that there's a nice vision from VMware where Kubernetes is becoming kind of the control plane of your data center. But it also imposes a big threat, of course, because if an attacker can get hold of your control plane for the entire data center, that poses a big challenge. So how do you see, how do you protect your Kubernetes estate and the APIs? Buddy or Hans, who wants to take this?
Well, there is another version on VMware where it's coming in important, and which is Zero Trust. We already spoke before on Zero Trust on the workspace, but you can also put Zero Trust in container security. For example, don't trust, always verify, for example. It's the same with containers, Don't trust the container, always verify if the container is right. A second thing is that containers also enables us to limit the blast radius if something goes wrong, where we usually have one web server with one database on the system itself. So if you're going to take a look more from the control plane perspective, I think it's really nice to see that we're able to segment and to be sure that if you have one system who's being attacked, you're sure that it's not ending up all there in the control plane. And also, let's be honest, we also need to be sure that we are still having our control in a out-of-band way of managing, for example. Not necessarily limited by firewall, but at least by certificates or something like that. But it keeps on giving a different view on how you have to take a look on it.
Yeah, and basically it already starts at what do you bring into that central environment? Where do you get your images from? Are they trusted sources? Do you know what's in them? There are applications and services available that really show, hey, this kind of software that's already in there. And hey guys, there's already some vulnerabilities in those images. So if you start already from the beginning, hey, what do I bring in there? That's another layer of protection you already bring into the environment without really having it as a security layer that's visible.
Hans, it also remembers me about automation. If you're going to take a look on where automation is really important, it's on this subject.
Yep.
And automation can also help us to stay secure in a way, isn't it?
Absolutely. And automation can be done in different ways. Automating the whole pipeline from development towards the production, but also checking, for example, hey, what versions do I use? If I have library XYZ, well, Log4j is, for example, a recent thing. Do you know already what kind of versions that you're using? And can you check also, hey, what's the new versions? You can have bots, for example, that already provide pull requests on your environment to say, hey, guys, this needs to be updated. So that's also part of the automation that can be done and is really becoming important right now.
And lifecycle management with containerized workloads is, well, it's a bit easier as opposed to doing it the traditional way, going...
It should be way easier, and because you're doing replacements instead of upgrades, it's also a lot safer. If you do an upgrade, you're never quite sure what the end state will be. It could be a little bit different, and if you replace it, well, that's quite easy.
From an attacker perspective, that's a really interesting one, because if you're going to take a look where attackers usually are, of course they want to get to functionality and data, but in the end they always end up in taking over systems. But what if you cycle your systems every day?
Well, for example.
Yeah, that's a really good point, buddy. Hey, taking it across to the ITQ solutions that we provide to our customers, how can we help customers with our expertise in this specific area?
Well, there are different ways and on different levels also of the whole security stack. We talked about the development cycle. I believe we have some partnership coming up with SNCC.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a good way to also already get visibility on that. We can look at policies within Kubernetes. What do you deploy? Also the whole scanning of the images around that. But also more on a infrastructure level, more the carbon black solutions.
Yeah. And defense in depth is there definitely one of the things where we can raise the security on our customer level. And especially when you're going to take a look on Carbon Black, where it's searching for a wrong behavior instead of IOCs or signatures on certain malware. There's the behavior also very interesting, because the containers, the behavior is much more standardized usually than just the whole server. And I think ITQ is really able to help our customers over there to implement the Carbon Black suite in their system and their organization. So it doesn't necessarily need to be that you have your Carbon Black specialists within your organization. No, you can have them from ITQ and they take a look on you also on your container landscape.
Yeah, and I think it's also quite important that we have the discussion up front. It's not about the product and implement the product and it's solved. No, it's all about the mindset as well. So it's the combination, and I think ITQ is a very good fit for that, to have both the discussion and the implementation of the product.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, with all the experience that we have around implementing security solutions and helping customers, we can take away much of the heavy lifting as well, right?
I totally agree.
Cool. So if you guys look at, you know, the upcoming 12 months, and we're in January now, what are some key priorities or takeaways that you want to give to our customers or to your colleagues? What would it be for you, buddy?
Well, for me, it would be think about in a different way on security level. Don't trust on simple firewalls or whatever. Go to the behavioral side, because all your users, your containers, your systems, they have a certain behavior. And if you're able to blueprint that and act on anomalies on the blueprint, then you're able to protect your organization for real. And it doesn't mean you need to skip all those firewalls, but at least it's a different angle where hackers also making abuse of.
Okay, sounds good. Hans, for you?
For me, it's two things. One thing is about the product that we install and that we configure at the customer side. I think one thing should be clear is that as soon as we install it, we should be able to update it without any fears about breaking something. So we have to think about that way as well. The other way is, if you look at the container platforms, Kubernetes, by default, it's very insecure how it's set up. And if you don't do anything, people can run the containers as root. Well, that's something you want to prevent. So one of the other things is policies within Kubernetes, so it prevents those things, but also building those into the pipelines so that developers already, before they deploy the software, already get signals, hey guys, you're not really doing what we are agreeing on.
Well, guys, we could talk for hours around this stuff, but I think we have to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for your insights on this topic, and we'll hopefully see you in the next video. And thank you for watching. I hope you learned a bit around the challenges around security and the opportunities around security in regards to containers and container platforms. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and hopefully I'll see you next time on another IT Conversations. Thanks for watching.